able to share it from your page to mine.
Maybe. Let's fast the people now. We live. Hey y'all, how you doing? Welcome to the social, and as usual, we are here cutting up. What's up, y'all? It's
Always.
Wednesday. It's 5 o'clock. It's good to see y'all. I'm here with my lovely co-host Kiana. Say what's up to the people.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing on this good
Well,
Wednesday?
glad to be here because it means I made it to five, right?
Right. And there's that. Listen. So can we talk about this uncoordinated coordination we got going on from
I'm
two different
like
worlds?
so
How we
here
do
for
this?
it. I mean, be my cheater friend. I'm so here for it. A little undone. But we done it again last week with the sweatshirts.
Yeah, no, this is this is how we do it. I guess apparently we done got dressed like we going on tour together. I really feel like we
You
gotta.
might not. I mean, stay tuned. You never know. You never know.
It's a thing, y'all. We did this completely by accident. We just had logged on to the channel and both been in
100%.
costume. So serving looks is
Just
just what we
live.
do apparently. But it's good to see you guys. How you guys doing?
Yes.
Welcome, welcome. Today we have a really great conversation for you. Kiana, why don't you tell the people what we're talking about?
Yeah, today we are talking about the freedom in the fluid and normal. Probably something we low key made up and gleaned from a lot of different places, but what that looks like to walk away from this idea of normal or going back to normal while we sit in the midst of some very uncertain times, especially um, all of us dealing with a pandemic for the first time. And you hear a lot, when this is over, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. And so I think this conversation is really going to challenge that and hopefully invite some perspective shifts in all of us as we engage and connect on the social today.
Listen, you made that sound so soft and inviting. But
I mean, you got to get folks in, right?
yes,
And
you
then,
got to bring them on into it. But the invitation to challenge and shift is a
yes.
grand one, and that's great. What a lovely invitation that sounds.
Oh,
If only
good,
the
good. I'm glad.
process
Now,
felt,
I didn't
felt
say
the
Mama
same,
didn't say it
right?
was gonna be easy. Okay, but she said, "Come on in, I'll hold your hand while we do it."
Like, listen, it's about the nurturing. You gotta lure them in with something sweet, and that's
Right.
beautiful. But it's good because you are in fact sweet, and the whole process be sweet. So that'd be good. Man, welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it. But
Me too.
first, we got this check-in. So
Yes, let's do it.
it's time. So again, tell the people your name, your pronouns, and then tell me what's something you feel grateful for today. And those of you that are
Awesome.
joining us via comment, feel free to answer the
Mm-hmm.
question and check in with us as
Yes,
well.
please share with us.
Yes, yes. Okay, so hit it
Yes.
to the check
So,
in with us, Keith.
all right. So I am Kiana Shelton, and pronouns she, her, hers. I am grateful for. This is gonna sound like super wild, but bowel movements. I have a new baby, and there have been a few days, everything is like, like you don't think about these things, but it's like I was just so anxious and worried, and I've never prayed for someone to poop in my whole life
Yes.
until I had this little baby. But he went to the bathroom, y'all, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am. I hope this doesn't embarrass him when he's 18, but
He is over you.
I was like, Lord, I'll clean it all up. I won't even complain no more about these
Nah.
apples. Let them go. So that,
Got completely on
honestly,
my
that
nerves.
is one of the things I am so grateful for right now. And it sounds so wild, but honestly, I am very grateful for it.
It be real. It be
So,
real. Well, shout out to my
right,
baby boy getting back regular in these streets. It's
right, out here
important.
regular.
Yes, it's important. Get my man some relief. Man. Okay.
Yes. And you, what are you
Me,
grateful for
me.
today?
So my name is Khalil Blue. He, him pronouns. I am grateful this week for friends. Um,
Mm.
yeah, this has been an incredible, an incredible week in a lot of ways, and so I've had to cling on to a couple of friends really, really heavy in the last couple of days. So I'm grateful to have access to those kind of relationships and have people that agree to anchor you in crisis moments.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been good.
Yeah.
It's been good to have that and be able to practice that because I'm not historically always the best at accessing like my
Mm.
network when I'm in a similar space. So I had to
Mm. Mm-hmm.
do a lot of practicing what I preach this week, which is difficult. So yeah,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so that's cool. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for integrity. I'm grateful for friendships. I'm grateful for again being here at this 5 o'clock hour because that means we got at least
Yeah.
half the week under the belt, so we
Look,
good to go.
right? Right. It be
We
feeling good when this show is over. Like,
look good.
okay, Thursday, Friday, come
Here,
through. Like,
listen, and the way we both sitting here wrapped up in leopard, the rest of the week don't want none. Period. Like I
they
think
really don't.
we done
Okay.
got fierce on them.
They
They didn't
don't.
even know how we was coming for the second half. Like I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. So talk to
Yeah.
me today a little bit about kind of
Yeah.
where you're sitting with around this idea of normal, because that every day that word seems to hit me a little different, and
Mm.
yeah, I'm really the idea of it seems like something to unpack. So what you got for us
Right.
around this concept? How can we ground in? How is normal defined in this space?
Yeah. Right. So, I think that's why we're having the conversation about fluid normal, right? In
Hmm.
hopes of redefining it.
Hmm.
I in my practice as a therapist, there's a lot of times where I'm sitting with clients and the expectation is I just can't wait to be normal or and the question always is, well, what does that look for you, right? Because it is so situational
Hmm.
in terms of how you define it versus how I define it. And so I'm really big, probably annoyingly big on like the etymology of words and
Come
kind
on,
of like what
etymology.
does that actual word mean, right? I'm really big on
Hmm.
words. And so the definition for normal is conforming to the standard or the common type.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where we've got normal, right? It's established as a standard. And so then again, we have to challenge like who set this standard? What are we um, saying normal is in terms of how we're going to reach it or not reach it? And so then I also want to just kind of bring one of the definitions for fluid, right? And that's changing, readily shifting, not fixed, stable, or rigid. And it's like low key. Today we're going to talk about how opposites need to marry each other, right? Like, because it's the complete other end of the spectrum. And so, what does a fluid normal look like? And so, what I really think I want to like kind of bring to everybody's attention initially is just the fact that we practice fluid normals way more frequently than we actually like realize. But it's often very unconscious, right? Like if I catch a cold, um, and
Child.
I still gotta get to work and do things, pre-pandemic
Right.
way we used to feel about colds. Let me kind of put that out there. But if I were to catch a cold, like there's a standard of my normal when I'm not feeling the best, but still able to function. Or like when you have a headache, but you could still make it to that meeting versus the migraine that like really takes you out and you need all the lights out and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
And so like my standard of what's normal and what's sufficient and okay for me in those moments shifts and it changes. Um, so, that is a way that we often unconsciously practice it. And I think our conversation today is what does that look like if we were to shift that and consciously practice it, right? Like being
Mm,
mindful of the fact that we are going to sit in places of fluidity with the way that we define normal.
mhm. I love the language that you use, like the standard of
Oh,
my
can't hear me?
normal. You can't hear me? No. No.
Oh no. No.
No. The hatred. Please hold.
Well, I guess hit me in the chat with your thought. I feel so bad. Last week it was me that was frozen.
They don't want us to be great.
Well, guys, just a pause. We are going to see if we can reconnect back with Derek. Um, Drop stuff in the chat about what you think about the conversation so far, what normal looks like to you. Oh, we're back.
Yes. Can you?
I can hear you. Oh, so we're having technical difficulties. My deepest apologies. I'm gonna pause real quick, see if I can get connected
Okay. How are
faster.
we doing?
Oh, I was about to give a whole announcement. Like, we gotta figure it out. Okay, well, we're back. I can hear
We
you. So,
back.
what were you gonna say?
Yeah. Sorry, the technicals. They don't want us to be great out here. So no,
Never
I was
do.
saying I was really appreciating the language you were using about this idea of like my standard of normal,
Mm-hmm.
because it really gives a lot of agency and understanding of like the choice and the opportunity to like self-define, and
Right.
and a lot of awareness that like just the concept, um well, for me, I guess, and forgive me for like unpacking it a little, but I think that for me the concept of like normal in
Mm-hmm.
itself is a fluid idea, and really when I hear that, it's about like normal is in whatever you accept, right? And
Yeah.
you set practice around. And so I think like the idea of like having some understanding or some like ownership of what your standard of normal is, and then developing
Mm-hmm.
which you can amend that and adjust, um, as conditions call for that, seems really
Right.
empowering. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And definitely a way to shift back to self-empowerment, right? And to the idea of like in the midst of many things I don't believe I have control over, being able to have some of that for sure.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of a quote, but I think I'm not able to share now because I switched devices. So could you
Okay,
read
yeah.
bit.
Yeah. So, Sonia Renee Taylor is an amazing author, poet, spoken word, like extraordinaire activist, all name all great things, insert here. And there was a quote that was floating around a couple of months ago that was misquoted. And it was actually something that she said that was given credit to Brene Brown, who we've talked about before during the Feeling Blue
Awesome.
with shame. Yeah. And so she has a podcast called Unlocking Us. And basically, from this misquote, it drove her to discover who actually said the quote because they must be a genius and I need to talk to them. And then she got invited onto her podcast. So the quote says, "We will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre corona existence was not normal, other than we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. My friends, we have been given anew. We should not long to return. The opportunity to stitch a new garment is what we are being given, one that fits all humanity and nature."
Mm, I say.
Right?
I'm here for it. There's so much
And
to
it's
unpack.
so much, right? So much to
Right.
unpack, so much truth in a couple of sentences. And I was just really moved and taken back by that quote because, a lot of what the pandemic has showed us is how much of our system wasn't okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and because of that, I think that us having to sit in this universal timeout to really sit back and have pause and reflection. I have been centering around the fact that, like, I don't want to go back,
Right. Right. Right.
but then also not having the words to really articulate why it was that I didn't want to go back, like what I was like. And I guess what it is like there is a very swept under the rug with a lot of things that were mentioned, right? The
Right.
greed, the exhaustion, like many of us felt so run down by our 9 to 5s, by all of the other responsibilities that we had, that many of us just weren't in a space
Mm-hmm.
to get that break. And like many of us asked for this, but we weren't specific when we was talking about, Lord, I just, need a break. I need a way
And
to be able to like make my money but stay home. Like, we wasn't really
period.
specific.
Listen,
Like this
and
was
I
wasn't
swear
what
we
we
had
was
that
talking about.
conversation when this first started. It's
Cause it was
real.
hard, right?
You
It
got to
was hard to
specify in these
like,
streets.
and then it turned into this will be done in, a month or two. And now, we are quite deep in realization that like things are going to look different, you know? And some of us are just craving normalcy, but I think this is what the conversation was about, right? Let's
Right.
challenge what is the normalcy that you're craving, because in this opportunity, like Sonia talked about, of stitching a new garment, like you can bring forth, there's an African Zulu word, sankofa, which means
Mm-hmm.
to take from the
Go
past
back
what
and
is
get
good.
it.
Look, we can go back and get what you loved about pre-corona and stitch it anew with, the realization and insight and things that we are finding to be necessary and important for our mental health and well-being moving forward, right? And so
Yeah, I
that
love
is
that.
that's really what that's from, and I'm gonna drop it in the Facebook chat, and so people
Yeah,
can see the quote.
thank you, and thank you for bringing that in. I really love like the words, the entire quote, bars. Like this,
Right?
this is that thing that you write down and step back from. Like, yo, I had pinned that out. Um, but I think that what this really hits like in a mental health space for me is that like for a lot of us, the idea of clinging to a normal or even the process of like normalization is even something that gets offered like in clinical space, right? And that uh, a lot of times like rushing or fixating on this idea of normal is trauma
Mm-hmm.
response, and
Yeah.
sometimes it is us being impacted by all of the things that are happening concurrently in our world right now, and
Mm-hmm.
then compiling that with all of the things that are happening individually in our own, you know, lives and in our own worlds, and how those
Right.
things like collide or, you know, in some cases support one another. But I think that what corona, you know, besides this like as we call it, like, you know, this collective seat that Corona gave
Mm-hmm.
everybody, and you know, it just kind of take a break for a minute. It also gave uplifted, like lifted up a lot of clarity and a lot of visibility around
Mm-hmm.
the conditions that we have built normal around. And I think
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that in Sonia's quote, she speaks really eloquently to the trauma of
Right.
our normalized society and what lives in that
Absolutely.
every day. And
Right.
what gets highlighted for me is like even all of the time pre-corona and even during this pandemic that we spend um, promoting this idea of self-care, right?
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and calling people to the responsibility of that without contextualizing that in the fact that like the conditions for care in a lot of ways are not set. And
Yeah.
so even though like, you know, talking about exhaustion and depletion and you know all of these things, for a lot of us that's just a normal work day, right? That's a normal
Right.
work environment. This is like some of the things, even when we talk to people right now about stress and stress levels, it's almost laughable because it's like, where, when am I not stressed? What is not
Right.
me these days?
No,
And we
for
sort of
real.
we live in this normalization of like of this lack of access that we have to wellness or to care or to
Mm-hmm.
safety, and not really understanding how fluid and negotiable normal has always been,
Mm.
because in our world where normal or the conditions are sort of set by system, uh, that changes per its command, right? And
Right.
per the
Right.
needs for production.
Right.
And I think that it's really and it's really exciting to challenge our the ideas we're holding about that, but also to pair with that with what already exists in normal. So if normal is
Mm-hmm.
systemic and normal is already fluid and conditioned by systemic decision, then what is our power to
Right.
also like flow with that and decide how we recondition that for ourselves and in our own
Yeah.
environments, and also use that same ideology to recondition the system itself.
Exactly. And I think like those are right. So let's segue into like some of the things that the pandemic, like you were just kind of hitting on, have shine light on, right? And I think that you hit it right, like on target with the fact that there was a lot more fluidity that we were not privy to that magically, or because of, at the end of the day, like that dollar, we got to figure out how to make it some way, somehow. Like
Mhm.
how they rolled out commercials for masks that quick is still mind blowing. but
Child, listen.
but like regulate, like for example, like I work at a county mental health clinic, and so like there are medical regulations that are very fixed and very rigid, and now they are a lot more fluid, right? For people to
Mhm.
still have needs met. And so I think about, populations who could have always benefited from a Zoom or phone session that were not awarded that opportunity then, but now can be. The question is, if we were to return to normal, then my, response is that this is no longer an option, right?
Right, right.
And
And
so
that's
like,
exactly like that's I think that's the tension that we're sitting in, right? And so much
yeah.
of the conversation that like gets to be had now is that
Mhm.
we get to say out loud that returning to normal, returning to the way things were, means getting authentic about the fact that we were actively denying people care and resource, that we were actively withholding support from the very communities we shame for not being healed, right? And
Look.
so if it doesn't seem to me, right, like we're in a space yet of like America is ready for like full atonement and responsibility
Mhm.
and like, yeah, let's just be honest about all the things that we're doing so we can change
Mhm.
that. Like
Mhm.
we're headed there. We're not there yet.
Nah.
But I think that when we on a peer-to-peer level right now, like in communities, as we're talking with people and in local systems, in our schools, in our local health
Mhm.
fields, in our in our relationships with one another, we get to sit together and challenge the concepts that we've built around the world that we were living in before now, and the ways in which we didn't see one another, and the ways in which we chose not to see one another
Right.
because it didn't benefit our system at the time,
Right.
right? and
Right.
and and even with that, the ways in which we chose not to see ourselves, right, if we want to go
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
think that being able to talk out loud that, you know, normal is indeed a standard, right?
Yeah.
And standard speaks to a value, right? And that speaks to a boundary, and that speaks to a level of,
Look.
acceptance and permission. And so, and I think that when we talk about the normal that we want to live in moving forward, we're talking directly about the things
Mhm.
that we value, what we are willing to accept, right? And the things that we want to build permissions around. So if it is
Mhm.
important
Mhm.
for folks to live in a world that where our mental health is not impacted by racism, where our mental health is not impacted by inequity, where our mental health is not impacted
Mm.
by the negligence of those who hold power over resource, which is inequity. Uh, then we have to get really, really clear and, like you said, really specific about what we will not permit and what we won't stand for moving forward. And now that we
Right.
have seen a
Right.
world where these fluid resources have come, where finances and entire company structures have been able to be moved overnight, and, all of the legal policies and practices that were built to keep people out of systems of care or clinical spaces because they didn't have certain insurances or things like that.
Mhm.
Now that
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
needles have been sort of brushed aside for this pandemic, can we keep the pieces of this version of us that are working to
Yeah.
serve as accessibility, um, and also, as you said, do the thing where we are picking back the values of like community and togetherness and all of the things that we will also need to support this new world that we're building, that
Hmm.
we've been practiced out of during this pandemic time.
Absolutely, right? And I think that like this is the gift of the leverage that we never really had, right? Because like, now, and especially because so many months have gone on, there's now statistical data to be able to show things. There's a lot more that, you can walk into a room with to have conversation about how some of these things need to come with us in this new world that we're going to create walking out of this, that are going to be for the betterment, of all people, and yeah, I am in 100% agreement that um it's one thing to say no, and that's just because that's how we've always done it. And then it's another thing to say no when we've seen it be beneficial for
Mhm.
people in what is considered, some of the toughest times for all of us, right?
Right.
Nobody's ever done a pandemic, so coming out of it now, we can all say that we have, and in that, how we were able to stitch a new garment, quoting Sonia, for like what that new looks like. So I'm curious to know what are, whether they're, work related or personal, what are some of the things that you want to bring? What are some of the things you're going to stitch anew?
Ooh. That I want to bring with me from the old world. The old world.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
Definitely community, right?
Mm,
I am privileged to say that I exist in a strong like cohort of community members, and a lot of my time is spent like in circles and on stage and in
hmm.
venues with folks. So I'm excited about bringing um, a community vibe back into the world, reinviting us,
Mm,
albeit safely,
mm,
into a space where we're comfortable gathering again. I know that folks
mm,
are gathering and doing things right now, in in different spaces and in different ways, but I think that we haven't, like, as a world, right? We're not having concerts like we were having,
right,
and
right, right.
doing those things, which are, for me and for my lens on healing, and in my career space, the stage is the doctor's office. Right? And
Mm-hmm,
that's
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
that's where we teach, that's where we connect, that's where we do relationship building and everything. So having those spaces that bring people together for like entertainment and education, and to like facilitate relationship, I'm really excited about that. um, and I am also excited about, I think it's been active now, but I'm excited about continuing like critical dialogue. I think that
mm,
I'm not existing like with any naivety around the level of work that is yet to come, right? Around these
right,
issues,
right.
and um, what mountains there are still to move. And
Yeah.
so I'm excited about participating and contributing to a world that doesn't turn off the level of realness and direct engagement with what is uncomfortable, and what our spaces of growth are as a
Mm-hmm,
people and as
mm-hmm,
a society. Um,
mm-hmm,
so I'm excited about being able to be in the room with folks, and wrestling with deep topics, and being able to, like, you know as much as I hate staff meetings, but like staff meeting it up, be writing things down and taking the notes and sort of collaborating around actionable change. I'm excited about that, and really I'm excited. I'm excited about like some of the communications um, that can shift and alternate, right? Some of the like barriers around. I think that um, as wild as it is to be on camera with people all the time, I think that so much moving forward, I don't think it's a thing that's going to go away, and I think it's going to be. I think this is going to be the way that we meet in different ways, and so I'm excited to keep some of this style of connection, because in the previous world I was like driving from meeting to meeting, going space to space for for work, and so being able to just kind of link up virtually will kill a lot of travel time. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about those things, and I'm excited about a world after this that is Trumpless. So there's that. What about you?
I echo many of those sentiments. Um, but I think I feel like pre like the old world had very little virtual space in it for me. Like, I would check social media, but I like hardly did any Zooms. I think that would be like a wow, what a big deal type thing to go to a meeting or a training via Zoom. But I appreciate what this virtual space has increased in terms of access to things. Being able to attend stuff that was on the East Coast, being able to sit in this space, like the social was born out of this, like, like just being able to have those spaces has been something that I'm really appreciative of, and it has expanded my personal thought process on like what's possible and what isn't. Because I think that I'm bringing over a new layer of creativity for being able to get things done, get people connected, be connected in ways that I had created a normal that felt very 2D in certain situations. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just had to be face to face, or it had to be this email, like. And so I'm looking forward to bringing that over. And I am not going to bring over um exhaustion. Like I have found myself in even in times now, that my most exhausting moments are when I'm trying to pretend like we aren't in different times, right? Where I'm overscheduling or overlapping things, like, and then and in my efforts of creating my temporary normalcy, but I think that has called to my attention, like, still taking those moments to breathe, still getting outside, still getting air, all of that stuff, that I'm definitely going to bring that mindfulness forward, and not bring those things that don't serve me, the things that I was hoping could stop,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I want to add too, like, I think moving into the new world, I'm definitely determined to be a lot more protective of my time and boundaries. Like, I think I've learned during quarantine how important that is to me. Um,
Uh-oh.
And so I'm really I'm really actively working now about building practice around that, um, and making sure that when we get back into the hustle and bustle of the world, that I don't pick up old habits and sort of abandon all of this time that I've got to cultivate relationship with myself. You know what I mean? So I'm really trying to make sure that doesn't happen. I think we lost you on camera a little bit, Key. Oh, we'll get it back soon. So yeah, we're curious to know what are some of the things that you've learned um, in your time in quarantine, and maybe that are valuable for you to get back when we move into this new world, and what are some of the things that you feel are going to be important for you to shift and move into a space of more fluidity around.
Uh-oh. Am I back?
You back, you back, you back.
Okay. I don't know
Sick
if you
to see
can
you.
see that.
Technology just don't love us today, and
It
it is
really doesn't, and that makes
all
me sad.
right. We
But
love you,
if
tech.
you can hear me,
We can hear you.
okay, cool. Well, until we can see me, um,
We
but
got
I
you
am
passed
here.
out.
Let's see.
You're just
Um,
stuck with this face.
yes, and it's a good one. So we're getting close to time, and
Mhm.
I was thinking about um playing a little game with you.
Lord, Lord, Lord.
Which I love the fact that you can't even see my face. So like
This is a
let's
terrible
just
punishment.
add
Strategic,
to
even.
the anxiety. And I know that I like literally hit you 2 seconds before we went live with this. But I really think that this would be fun to kind of play
Lord,
just one of those like off the dome, the very first thing that comes to your mind when I ask you these questions.
Lord, I'm worried.
And I am inspired after I listen to Brene Brown's Unlocking Us podcast. She does these kind of rapid fire questions at the end, and I couldn't catch all of them, but I wrote down a few of them, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get Derek. I think that this would be
Not the target.
quite fun to play."
First of
So,
all,
you
I don't like
ready?
things that inspire the "ooh, I'm a kid" Derek
You
response.
ready?
Not
Are
safe.
you ready though?
You know what? Let's go.
All right.
Jeez.
Okay. So, off the top of your dome, like the first thing that comes to mind, what's something that people often get wrong about you?
Oh shit. Something that people often get wrong about me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they often I'm animated when I speak, and I'm like a passionate person, so people often mistake that for anger, because
Mm.
I get really in my like feelings and get to talking with my hands and stuff. So um, I people often think I'm mad when I'm not.
Got you. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is I Am Sam.
Oh, really? That
Yeah,
is a really good film. That's a
it
good film.
is.
What's the last TV show that you binge watched and loved?
P Valley. I've been watching P Valley.
I have not seen it, but the memes give me life and make me so curious. So I
Down
might
in the
have
valley where yo,
to get
it's
on that.
going off. It's been my quarantine jam
Um,
right now.
let's see. What's a concert you would never forget?
Erica Badu,
Oh, I know that was fire.
life change.
She puts on quite a show. Favorite dessert?
Ooh, cheesecake.
Ooh, any particular kind?
Well, listen, I'm gonna tell the whole world now. You have made me a banana pudding cheesecake one time. That is definitely my new favorite thing on the
Yes.
planet.
When we link up again, I got you.
You know I'm coming for the cheesecake. So just let that be known.
Oh man. All right.
Don't have the
And
cheesecake and Jackson because I'm gonna have to hold them both.
I am gonna hit you with both.
That's awful. You be
I'm
plotting,
definitely
bro.
gonna
What
hit
is
you with
this?
both.
What is? I feel like we need to work something out.
And finally, how would you define vulnerability?
Ooh. Um, risk,
Mm,
um, willingness, and love in practice.
wow. See, I told you it wasn't too bad.
It was
You
cool. It was
know,
cool.
I think that I um really thought that that was such a great way to kind of get candid responses and really just like another layer and snapshot of who you are as we're starting out with the social. And so,
Yeah.
it is only fair that I say go ahead and come up with some questions that I have no
Oh,
idea about
no.
and throw them at me. And maybe the
Listen.
screen will cut off on me again. And
Period. The get back action. I got it.
I am worried about it. I am
Uh,
worried, but
no, actually, it was
also
cool. It was really cool. It was a cool processing. I like fun stuff like
just
that.
remember that I did you right. I did you
You did
right.
me
Ain't
right.
coming no crazy
You did me right.
questions.
All right. I'll make you sing a song. Yes.
So as we're coming to a close, any closing thoughts?
Ooh, yes. I am. I guess I'm going to invite and encourage
Mm-hmm.
folks to spend a little time this week crafting the the world that we're about to step in for yourself, right? And
Yeah.
choosing, setting, some value for yourself about the things that you feel are most important to you, right? The things that you want to set permission or boundaries around,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and getting maybe a little closer to clarity or awareness around, uh, where you place acceptance,
Yeah.
and, um, and even if you get to a space where you're able to just like jot a couple of notes down for yourself, or begin that, um, or continue if you are already on this journey,
Mm-hmm.
that level of self-reflection. um, I I think that as we are continuing to absorb information about um, what conditions we'll be working through in the
Mm-hmm.
near future, I think staying steadfast and grounded in that set of values and that set of boundaries, and understanding sort of where we're placing our acceptance and integrity really, um,
Mm-hmm.
is going to be something that's extremely vital to our sense of safety, our sense of worth, our sense of wellness, as we navigate this world that is developing um, right before our eyes.
Absolutely. And I think, for me, closing out and piggybacking off of that, I just want to encourage people to kind of like not wait for when it's over, but to start stitching anew in the midst of, right? Like
Mm.
there's no
Oh,
no true timeline. And because there isn't, sometimes we can self-sabotage by saying we're gonna wait until, January 1st, 2021. And
feel attacked.
and we may be sitting here this way on 2021 January 1st. And if we are, um how disappointing that would be if we set it up for a new was going to be at the start of that. And so, I mean, don't quote me on the actual amount of time, but it's something like 112 days until January. first. And,
That is so rude.
that's a
Why?
long time to be
I
waiting
did
to
not need the
decide to do
number.
something when there's really only one mindset that needs to change. And when you're thinking about those things, there's a quote from Howard Thurman, and it says, "Don't ask what the world needs,
Mm,
ask what makes you come alive and go do it, because what the world needs is people who have came alive, right?" And
mm.
so in this time of quarantining, in this time of universal sit down and sit with yourself and think about some things, really assess what's making you come alive. Make those be the things that you stitch anew. Make those be the things that you're going to bring forward, and start it now. And you will be 100 and some change days in come January 1st, which is going to feel real popping.
Okay.
So
Come on, get that 112.
that's what I
Get
like
the
to give for
peaches and
my
the
closing
cream.
thoughts. Okay. In all of
Come
my blackness, because y'all can't see my face.
on. Man,
I'm gonna make it work.
delete her. Oh man. Man, don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at the Social Workers.
Yes,
At hashtag us at the social.
please
Tune
do.
in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. to this
5 o'clock.
space. Kiana, myself, or maybe one of us at a time if technology continues controlling the situation.
Look, but we
Uh,
both gonna be here though.
but we gonna be here 5 p.m. no matter
In
what the
spirit and in truth.
technological conditions. We in these streets,
Yes,
5 p.m. on Wednesdays for the social. Join us in the space. Um, and as we continue going, we really love to know, as our listeners, as our communities, what types of things that you are interested in talking about. Uh,
absolutely.
we mounted this space for us to lean into conversations about health and wellness and communities and relationships and all of the things that impact that. But we'd love to hear from you about what it is that you're curious about. What are you wrestling with? What are some things that maybe even you want to tools you want to share with us? So please send us some topics. Um,
Yes,
and
and I put in the chat on Facebook as well as this platform our email
beautiful.
address. Feel free to shoot us an email with some of those ideas and topics at the social.connections@gmail.com. That'd be so great for us to, and give us as many as you want. Don't be shy, and then we'll be able to sit with a lot of those. Also, if there's questions or different things that you want to bring up as food for thought, or some rapid fire questions that I can throw at Derek, or he can throw at
Oh,
me,
so you
or
gonna
he
sick
can
the
throw
people
at
on
me.
me?
Look, or he
You
can
gonna
throw
sick
at
the
me.
people on me?
I
Okay.
definitely brought it back on myself too. We would
Okay.
love to answer all of those for you guys.
All
Until
right.
next time, be well, take care of
Yeah.
yourself.
And
Be
stay
kind to one
connected.
another. Stay
Yeah.
connected. Bye.